breaking news. Brooke Shields under fire for sexually assaulting Angela Bassett on the red carpet. On Wednesday, Brooke Shields and Angela Bassett were on the red carpet for Time Magazine's Women of the Year award. And while on the red carpet, Brooke gets a handful of Miss Angela's cakes, and that's what has everyone's panties in a twist. I have a video of said event, and then we're going to come back and discuss. And once internet trolls got their hands on this video, y'all, Twitter blew up with comments very similar to these. The way white folks feel entitled to black bodies is effing disgusting. Keep your filthy paws to yourself. I just saw the footage of what Brooke Shields did to Angela Bassett. That was a violation of Miss Bassett's bodily anatomy. Women do not get free passes to do what we rightfully condemn men for when they try this. If there is no mutual consent, hands off. Y'all, I'm sorry, but this is all kinds of a reach. To accuse Brooke Shields of sexually assaulting Angela without knowing their history is absolutely insane. Guys, who are we to judge Brooke and Angela's relationship? This could be their thing. When they see each other, they could like to touch each other's titties and asses. So this very well could be their thing, y'all. Also, I didn't see Angela having no problem with Brooke copping a feel. And let's be honest, we all are trying to get a feel of Miss Angela Bassett, okay? My husband has a free hall pass. Angela's in her 60s. We're in our 30s. And my husband has a free hall pass for Miss Angela Bassett. So I'm kind of feeling like a lot of y'all is jealous that Brooke got to do something that none of us can do. Let me know what you guys think and drop a comment down below. Go ahead and hit that follow button for news that's always biased and for my point of view.
Good evening, and thank you for joining me here with Conversations with Taz for the Sunday Sit Down. The incident with Brooke Shields and Angela Bassett, and a lot of people are like, oh, Angela Bassett is too classy to say anything. No, we're too indoctrinated and too trained that our bodies don't belong to us as Black women. That's why non-Black people feel so comfortable touching our hair, touching our bodies. Because if that was a man, there would be no discussion. If that would have been Brooke Shields and Angela Bassett cupped her ass like that, oh, pictures would have ceased, honey. Pictures would have ceased. But let me warn you, tonight's going to be a bit of a long one. The first half, we got some good stuff to get into. And the second half, we're going to deal with the controversy surrounding @TheOverloadComedy on TikTok, Twitter, and everywhere else. And we're going to break down just why she is so problematic and why she fucked around and now she's in her find out phase for once. But let's start, since tonight there are the Oscars. Let's get into a little bit of Oscar tea. Okay, get your cuts ready, babies.
So every year for the Oscars, all of these publications do these anonymous Oscar ballots where they get anonymous Academy members to tell them who they're voting for and tell the truth. That's not all that exciting. This year, though, Entertainment Weekly found someone, an actor, a man who, I'm going to go out on a limb and say is white, who is the scum of the earth, who hates, I know you'll be shocked to hear this, women, Black women in particular, and in fact, it appears anybody who isn't white. And they got his thoughts, so strap in, and I mean that in a literal way, because I'm going to say some offensive things that he's said now. He started by sharing some overall thoughts on the media blowback over Best Actress snubs for Viola Davis and Danielle Deadwyler. In case you didn't know, both Black women. When they get in trouble for not giving Viola Davis an award, it's like, no, sweetheart, you didn't deserve it. We voted, and we voted for the 5 we thought were best. It's not fair for you to start suddenly beating a frying pan and saying they're ignoring Black people. They're really not. They're making an effort. Maybe there was a time 10 years ago when they were, but they have, of all the high profile things, been in the forefront of wanting to be inclusive. Here you go. Get ready. Prepare yourself. Viola Davis and the lady director need to sit down, shut up, and relax. You didn't get a nomination. A lot of nominations don't get nominations. I mean, a lot of movies. Sorry, my rage. Viola, you have 1 or 2 Oscars. You're doing fine. We've only just begun. For Best Director, he's voting again for Everything Everywhere All at Once. He hates Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg definitely didn't put him in a movie once, and he is big mad about it throughout this whole thing. He goes on to complain about Steven Spielberg a little more, and then says that he thinks Michelle Williams was trying to be Jewish mama. I don't even know what that means, but he didn't mean it in a nice way. He's voting for Michelle Yeoh for Best Actress, but he's kind of resentful about it because clearly we've all been told that she's going to win, and I hate that I have to support that. Okay. I'd just say strap in one more time because he thought Ana de Armas was really good, and that's not even the offensive part. She, Marilyn Monroe / Ana de Armas, was tortured and raped and victimized in every single scene. She couldn't walk through a door without somebody raping her. Laughs. Haha. Ha ha ha. Okay, he's voting for Brendan Gleeson for Best Supporting Actor. Again, fine. Here's where we get offensive. Brian Tyree Henry, again, in case you didn't know, a Black man. I didn't actually watch Causeway because there are some actors in there that I'm not a fan of, and I just didn't want to go there. So he couldn't even be bothered to look into that one. Judd Hirsch, again, for those who don't know, is a Jewish man. That was awful. Everything about that movie was awful, horrible. That's a movie about a Jewish family, just in case you were wondering. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it gets worse. It gets worse. They decided that this man should weigh in on the Academy members, how they feel about Andrea Riseborough's Oscar nomination, and accusations of the Academy shutting out Black women. And he said, all's fair in love and war. Blah, blah, blah. Fine. If it hadn't been for Viola Davis being mad she wasn't nominated, I don't think anybody would have questioned it. It's ridiculous. It's sour grapes. The Academy has bent over backwards to be more inclusive. Last year, there were more Black people presenting. It's like, come on. I think Viola Davis, please hold, is talented. I didn't see Woman King, but I'm a little tired of Viola Davis and her snotty crying. I'm over all of that. So I'm willing to believe that Andrea Riseborough gave a better performance. It would literally take me 25 minutes to go through all of his most offensive statements. So those are literally the most offensive statements. There are also statements like Jamie Lee Curtis was only nominated because she took off her girdle and showed the world how fat she is. He didn't like Angela Bassett's accent in Wakanda. He didn't find it believable. Obviously, the fact that Wakanda is not a real place and the accent is whatever the creative team behind Wakanda decides it's going to be escaped this man. What else? He didn't like women talking, both in spirit, I'm going to guess, and also the literal movie. He felt that the women in that movie wouldn't have gotten away with the decisions they made and the actions they took. In case you didn't know, Women Talking is about a group of Mennonite women making decisions on behalf of the women in their community on what to do with a bunch of rapists in their community. So he didn't find that believable. I feel when you read it all, one statement after another, it makes you feel like you're having a stroke, like you're having an out-of-body experience about how bananas insane this is. That someone would be so comfortable sharing all of these insane, racist, misogynistic thoughts in a national publication because they had the guise of anonymity. It's horrifying. Why Entertainment Weekly published this, I will never know. Those are just flat out insane, racist things to say. I can't.
They published it so that you know when we say certain things, it is the truth, that this is what we go through. And let's not forget the utter misogynoir that was encapsulated in all of that. Now, it's always been my stance with these award shows, whether it's the Oscars, the Tonys, whatever. If you haven't listened to the full album, if you haven't watched the movie, if you haven't seen the play, you should not be able to vote. There should be a checks and balances. You should not vote based on who didn't hire you previously or who does not like your personality. Because clearly this person does not have a desirable personality. But to say that the Oscars has finally gotten diverse because they allow Black people onto the stage to present, child. Anyways, and let's not forget, this year's host is the one who had that disrespectful joke when Quinta Brunson won and he laid out on the stage. But from one Oscar host to the next, yeah, I'm not letting off his neck anytime soon.
I wrote that article for the Globe talking about Chris Rock's special. I posted my last video before I got to writing. Y'all are already popping off on the comments there. And I get it. Of course, this is a divisive conversation. On the one hand, you have Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, and a lot of people are taken aback by that assault. On the other hand, you have Chris Rock, who keeps targeting Jada Pinkett Smith, really targeting Black women. That's what the crux of my article is. This guy engages in misogynoir. He doesn't have it in him to attack Black men or white men as much as he attacks Black women. You'll notice that even when he's going off on Will Smith, he's really going off on Jada. He goes off about how many people called Will Smith a bitch, but the only person that Chris Rock calls a bitch is Jada Pinkett Smith. As for my article, it's really fascinating to see who really gets chuffed by it. I got some alt-right trolls all up in my comments supporting Chris Rock. Influential trolls like Jonathan Kay and Jordan Peterson are the ones who shared it just to go off.
Would y'all finally be upset and finally get it if Bitch Rock went after Angelina Jolie, Jennifer Aniston, J-Lo? Now, I know we talked about this just a smidgen the other day, regarding the whole situation, regarding the Mexican cartel and what was going on. And I played you a snippet of the interview from someone close to the situation, from CNN. Sit back, get comfortable, grab a drink, grab a snack, turn your volume up. Pay close attention to all of these. Sorry, they're not exactly in precise order. A lot of these I got right at the last minute before going live. I personally saw one of them and the rest of them were sent, so I had to take a little peek at them before putting them up here. But let's go through this.
Now, CNN just updated this article and said that there are more updates about what actually occurred in Mexico for the 4 individuals who were going down there because one of them was getting a procedure. So let's just get into this story. Now, one person was actually detained in this case. He's a 24-year-old male who goes by the name of Jose N, and he has a connection to the kidnappings of those 4 Americans, where 2 of them had passed away. According to CNN, it says after crossing the border, they were fired upon by an unidentified gunman, placed in a vehicle, and then taken from the scene by armed men. And this is according to the FBI. Of course, we all know that the federal government is stating that it could have been a case of mistaken identity and thinking that they were Haitian drug smugglers. Now, another development in the story is that there was actually a fifth person who was supposed to be joining him on that trip. She goes by the name of Cheryl Orange, and she called the police from her Motel 6 Brownsville motel to report that McGee, Williams, and Woodward had not been answering their phones. Orange said that McGee was planning to have a medical procedure there, and Orange told police that she had stayed behind in the United States because she didn't have her ID with her. Now, the strangest part about the story is that Cheryl Orange realized all the way from South Carolina to by the time they got to the Mexican border that she didn't have her photo ID. That's a little odd to me, but it can happen. The article goes on to say that the four had not been answering their cell phones, and Orange said in the report, it added that the Brownsville police checked the local jail to make sure that no one in the party had been taken into custody, but no other action was taken. McGee, Williams, and Woodward, along with the fourth American, Zindell Brown, were kidnapped in Mexico, and the U.S. officials familiar with the investigation told CNN. And of course, we all know that Woodward and Brown were found dead, and McGee and Williams had been transported to a hospital here in the United States to get treated. This article also goes on to say that the sister of one of the victims had called around looking for them, and when she had called the hospital, the representative at the desk stated that they were lost, and she was trying to give them directions. A lot of people are stating online that the reason why it could have been a mistaken identity is because if they were lost and they were doing countless U-turns within that town, it's possible that the cartel mistakenly thought that they were somebody else. So it's literally one of those cases where you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. But just stay tuned because we're going to probably have a lot more updates in the coming days about this story. As though this case couldn't get any more bizarre, apparently, according to the Daily Mail, the wife of Eric Williams didn't even know that he was traveling to Mexico. So let's immediately get into this article. So according to the Daily Mail, it says that the wife of the surviving person who was kidnapped at gunpoint in Mexico was revealed that she didn't know that her husband was traveling south of the border. Eric Williams was found on Tuesday alive with non-life-threatening gunshot wounds to his legs 5 days after he and his friends were accosted by the Mexican cartel, who seen them leading the Americans into a pickup truck at gunpoint. The wife stated, and I quote, "I didn't know he was traveling to Mexico. He told me that he was going somewhere to help two friends, but again, she didn't even know it was specifically in Mexico." The wife said that she did not hear from him since Friday, explaining how he had texted her in the morning, and I texted him back immediately. He didn't respond, according to his wife. He actually didn't respond to his son either, so she's going to assume that's the time that they had got ambushed. She had added that she highly doubt that they thought that this could actually happen to them. Mexican and American authorities had been searching for days for the four who had traveled to the dangerous part of the country to support Latavia, again, for having that tummy tuck surgery. Now, his wife did state that after all of that video and coverage had came out, she didn't know it was her husband because she typically doesn't watch videos like that on social media. So she was actually unaware that her husband was involved in that entire cartel shooting spree. She said the experience was so surreal, but she had called the local police and they confirmed that it was her husband and his friends who had got ambushed. Y'all, this story is just getting crazier and crazier. I want to know, how did she not know where her husband was going? And what about that friend who stayed at the hotel? And why did she ask the police to go check the jails? Why would they go check the jails? Something ain't right. Okay, so we're back, and the Daily Mail had published this article last night in regards to the four individuals who were kidnapped in Mexico. Now let's get into this story. So the Daily Mail is dubbing the four the cowboys, if you know what I mean. It says Americans who were killed in Mexico border kidnapped was jailed in 2015 for distribution, while the other three have a lengthy rap sheet when it comes to narcotics. Now, a disclaimer, I don't think that any person who goes through an ordeal like these people went through should have their rap sheets brought up, but I think that there's something about their prior history that's going to relate closely to this story, and so that's the only reason why we're discussing it. So in the article, they actually published the longest bit on Latavia. It says that the survivor, Latavia, was indicted on March 3rd of 2016 for 5 counts of unlawful acts toward a child and her daughter, who happened to be 8 years old at the time. If you continue to see stories flip-flopping saying that she's a mother of 5 or a mother of 6, I think it has something to do with this charge, because the daughter, who was 8 years old at the time, was found with methamphetamines, cannabinoids, and native THC in her system. And the Department of Child and Family Services found that because they were suspicious about something, and they actually took a sample of her hair. The state stated that the child tested positive for all of these different types of substances, and that is what brought the 5 counts to Washington. And they placed her daughter in child protective custody because they said she was providing her daughter with unreasonable risk of harm affecting the child's life, physical and mental health safety. So there's no word if this daughter is back in the care of Latavia, but I think that's why the story keeps switching from she has 5 kids to 6 kids, because it's possible that this one specific child may not be in her custody. Now, she was given a sentence of 5 years, but it was suspended. She was given a credit of 2 served to the State Department of Corrections and put on probation for 3 years and made subject to random drug and alcohol tests 4 times a year. Now, Woodward, one of the victims who had passed away in this ambush, was actually charged in 2015 for distributing and manufacturing amphetamines. Now, the other 2 victims in this ambush, the one who passed away and Eric Williams who survived, they had rap sheets when it came to drugs, but it was more for distribution of them, and it was small levels compared to these 2. Now, the next video that I'm about to produce, there's a timeline that's a bit off, and we're going to talk about it bit for bit, because I promise you, you did not hear this on the news. So here's another update from CNN in regards to that timeline of how the 4 Americans had got ambushed in Mexico. So the first update is that U.S. officials as well as Mexican officials have arrested a total of 6 people in connection to this ambush. So we know that there are 6 people have been arrested. 2 of them have been named, one by the name of Jose and the other one by the name of his last name, which is Guadalupe. But that's all the information they gave about the 2 individuals, part of the 6, who are apprehended. Now, the next update comes from a U.S. official as well as somebody who's close to the friend group who asked not to be named in accordance to this investigation. Starting off with the U.S. official, they actually stated that they had an appointment at the doctor's office at 7:30, but they called the doctor's office and told them that they were running late. And we already know that based off of the transcribed information from the doctor's office and them telling the doctor that they were lost. And that was roughly around 9:22 a.m. Now, the second bit of information comes from an anonymous source who sent them a screen recording of Williams's live stream on Facebook. Now, a CNN analyst went ahead and took that video and used it to geotag their location, and this is what they came up with. So it says, as the group drove south on 6th Street in Matamoros, the driver then, contradictory to the GPS instructions, made a right-hand turn on, I believe it's pronounced Galana Street, away from the doctor's office. And let me show you what that looks like. So according to the CNN analyst, they were supposed to take this route here when they got to Galana Street, and they were supposed to take it down here and then kind of cut across here and get to the doctor's office there. But what happened was, instead of taking the right-hand turn, they actually took a left-hand turn this way. And that is how they subsequently ended up in that lost remote area. Now, the analyst did say that although the video was helpful in providing another timestamp for where the 4 were before they were kidnapped, it doesn't explain where they were instead of going to the scheduled doctor's appointment. Because again, we talked about those missing 2.5 hours. And in that video, it shows that they had a GPS and it was on and it was talking to them. So they're not entirely sure why they deviated away from what the GPS instructions were giving them. And then that's when they say in more video, and I believe it's CCTV, the next time the car is seen, according to the Tamaulipas, I think that's how it's pronounced, Attorney General, is on a surveillance video over a mile south of the doctor's office at about 11:12 a.m. And at that point, between 11:12 a.m. and 11:38 a.m., that's when they were ambushed. But even the Attorney General, as well as U.S. officials and CNN analysts, said they didn't understand why they were deviating away from the GPS. That's the part that's really hard to understand. And even if they deviated away from the GPS just a little bit, it doesn't explain the 2.5 hour time gap of where they were. Now, remember, they told the doctor's office they were going to be late, but not this late. Now, I wanted to get to the timeline of this story because I think that it requires a great deal of analysis in regards to the 4 Americans who were ambushed in Mexico. So let's begin. Now, this is the timeline that comes from the Daily Mail, but don't worry, I went ahead and fact-checked it with CNN as well as the Associated Press, and they're all claiming this exact timeline, so we're just going to go with this one for now. Now, according to all those different publications, on Wednesday, March 1st, Latavia and her 3 friends headed from South Carolina all the way to Mexico to obviously get a tummy tuck. On Friday, March 3rd, the group arrived at 9:18 a.m. crossing over into the border into Mexico. And by 11:45, the group got caught in between either crossfire or misidentification by the Gulf Cartel group in Mexico. Now, we're just going to skip past this timeline here from Saturday, March 4th to Monday, March 6th, because all the details here are still emerging, so we don't want to confuse that timeline. So we're just going to stop right here at 11:45 a.m. when the group got caught up by the Gulf Cartel. Now, shout out to our girl, Karina Worldwide, because she happens to be covering the story in depth as well, so I encourage you to go follow her. Now, Karina's World had posted this screenshot, which actually comes from the doctor's office where Latavia was supposed to be getting that tummy tuck. And in this screenshot, at 9:22 a.m., Latavia told the doctor's office, "I'm in Mexico and I'm lost." The doctor saw that message and replied, "Are you using a GPS?" and then subsequently sent over the doctor's office's address via Google Maps. Now, the part that I find the most unusual about this kind of short exchange of conversation is the time that Latavia had told the doctor's office that they were lost. Now, here's a screenshot from the Motel 6 where the group was staying, and the one friend, Cheryl Orange, remained behind, all the way to the doctor's office in Matamoros, I hope I'm saying that right, in Mexico. Now, from the naked eye, you would not be able to find this doctor's office because it is tucked away on a small court or alley in Mexico. So it's understandable that Latavia and her friends were having a hard time finding it. But if you look at the Google Maps here, it looks like this doctor's office was actually just a short turn off of the main street. But we're all human and we always get lost when we're going to a new location. The question that I have, if Border Patrol saw that the group crossed the border at 9:18 a.m., and 4 minutes later, Latavia had texted the doctor's office that she was lost, then what exactly went on for almost 2 hours of them being lost to the time that they were ambushed? Now, it is understandable that anybody could get lost making any drive to a place they've never been before, but I'm not entirely sure how common it is to get lost for 2 hours while looking for one tiny street. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think happened in that 2-hour time frame from when they left their hotel to when they got lost? So there's actually another case of 3 missing Americans in Mexico, and you're not going to believe the crazy similarities that these women have with the last case we had just discussed. So let's get into this story. So these 3 women, according to CNN, were actually traveling across the border to sell their clothes at a flea market. It says here that the Mexican authorities are investigating the disappearance of 3 women identified as Maria Perez, who's 48, her sister, Martiza Perez, who's 47, and their friend Dora Sanzi, who happens to be 53 years old. They were headed to Matamoros, I hope I'm saying that correctly, in the Mexican state of Nuevo León to sell their clothes at a flea market, and the flea market was approximately 3 hours from the U.S. border. A source in the Nuevo León Attorney General's office told CNN the investigation into the 3 missing women involves various police agencies, a search committee, as well as drones, dogs, and vehicles. Now, here's part of the story where it gets a little bit scary. So it says here the last signal received from the women was in the Mexican state of Tamaulipas, the same Mexican state where the 4 other people had gotten ambushed. So that's a total of 7 Americans ambushed, possibly, in the Mexican state of Tamaulipas. Now, for reference, this is inside of this tiny red border here is Nuevo León, and this is where the 3 American women needed to be. And this region here to the side is Tamaulipas. And this is the port of entry the 3 American women had traveled to where they got lost. And here is where the 4 Americans had gotten lost and ambushed. And it's crazy because something is clearly going on in this Mexican region. The story goes on to say that Marina's husband spent all weekend calling his wife, and when he hadn't heard from them by Monday, he turned to investigators for help, and this is according to authorities. Surveillance videos that was received by the chief of police stated that the women had entered into the Anas Duas port, I hope I'm saying that right, on February 24th. And again, for reference, this is where they had entered into, and somehow in this area here, they had gotten lost. So they never actually made it over to Nuevo León to get to that flea market. So my question is, what is going on in this region that so many people are not only getting lost, but getting possibly ambushed and detained?
I told y'all the other night something wasn't right in Denmark with this one. Yeah. Now, remember, I also told y'all there's been a lot of backlash since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. There's even more. Pay close attention.
It has begun. It has begun. And this is what's concerning. John Mitchell is representing him. John Mitchell's the one who wrote the anti-abortion, the heartbeat bills, and was the Solicitor General of Texas. And they're trying to name the manufacturer of the abortion pill. 3 women in Texas are being sued for wrongful death after allegedly helping friend obtain abortion medication. They used her private text messages in between the two. You guys, stop texting. You need to call each other. What the fuck are you doing? This is the first lawsuit, and it's his ex-wife. This is abusive behavior. He's exhibiting state-sanctioned domestic violence against her and her friends. This is controlling abusive behavior. He wants $1 million in damages and an injunction stopping the defendants from distributing abortion pills in Texas. He also plans on suing the manufacturer. The abortion pill is used when there is a spontaneous abortion, also known as a miscarriage. Here it comes.
This is sick. This is the reality of the GOP's war on women and reproductive rights, menstrual cycle search parties. Mark Ruffalo is referring to the fact that the Virginia governor is clearing a path for extreme bill allowing police to seek menstrual histories. I find it convenient that police don't have the time and the resources to investigate SA, but they'll magically have the time and the resources to investigate women's menstrual histories if they have an abortion. When about 1 in 3 women get SA'd in their lifetime, and police won't take that seriously, yet they'll take this shit seriously, you know it is truly a war on women. That's why it's especially important right now for women to stand with each other. Unless you're one of those backwards women that wants to turn other women in for having abortions, then no thank you.
It is time to go old school. Okay. I don't know how many of you all know this, because I know how important it is for us to track our cycles. We have questions we have to answer at doctor's appointments. We like to know when it's about to occur. Delete your apps that track your cycle. If you have an iPhone and an Apple Watch, just like I do not input that information. Get a calendar, get a planner, go old school. And I'm going to tell y'all something that my mama taught me, that her mama taught her, that y'all catch it. Put a little X in one of the corners of the box of the calendar within your planner. Get you an old school, like, wallet calendar to track it that way. If you have a friend that needs help, figure out a coding system so that that friend can come to your house. I work in IT. When my cameras are not active, they're cut off. My speakers get cut off. The volume gets cut off on everything. You don't generally read the terms of service for different things that you sign up for. You do not know most of the time what you are consenting for when you just click agree. When you get these updates, when you just, oh, I want to join this app, I want to join that. You're not thinking about that. When you find a website that has good deals that you want to purchase from, you're not thinking on that level. I get that, because I've worked in different industries and different areas, and you become hyper vigilant when that is your area of expertise. I completely understand that. So that's why I'm telling you this. I guarantee you there are things you've signed up for where you have given them permission to access your camera, to access your microphone, your speaker. Be mindful. Take the time to read these things. And if you've already signed up, like I said, before you go to bed, cut that volume off. Cover those cameras. And like I told y'all before, And y'all didn't believe me until women started coming out speaking. Those Roombas and the Roomba knockoffs have cameras attached to them. Because I told y'all there was a reason why there was an influx of burglaries with people who owned Roombas. And it was hard for them to prove that they were burglarized because guess what? These folks have the full blueprint of your house. So yeah, they can slip and slide, dip and dive in and out. Now we're going to take a break for the ad, and then of course a little snippet, and then we're going to get into the real overload comedy, because this week the theme is, for the second half of all the shows, fuck around and find out. They fucked around, now they get to find out.
In the decision that overturned Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court did a historical review of laws concerning abortion. But there was a chapter that they seemed to forget. When the Constitution was signed, one of the articles said that the transatlantic slave trade was to continue unabated until 1808. And when 1808 came, that trade began to end. Not because of anybody's moral concerns, but because domestic slave traders thought that the international slave trade was cutting into their prices. So once the transatlantic slave trade kind of slowed and became very, very rare, where was America going to get new enslaved people? By breeding them. Black women were bred like cattle to produce children to continue America's production of cotton, tobacco, and rice and other goods. It was as simple as that. And in the Arkansas slave narratives, there's an account where a woman says they would put a man in a room with women they wanted to have children from. And sometimes they'd put a bag over the man's head because they wouldn't want him to see who he was having sex with, because it could be his mother or his sister or some other relative. That didn't matter. What mattered were new human lives to be enslaved. there is a connection to the abortion battles of today, going all the way back to the slave breeding times in United States history. Once again, men are attempting to control the reproductive freedom of women. Now, some might say it's for the exact same reason, because we know for a fact that rich women in America will always have access to abortion, no matter what the law is. But poor women in America will not. And if these poor women are forced to bring children into the world to be brought up in poverty, some might say that's just feeding the criminal legal system. It's feeding poverty in America. Whether that's somebody's intent or not is not something I'm concerned with. What I'm concerned with is that the past is speaking to us about what abortion means. I guarantee you this, no black woman who was being bred would have the right to an abortion.
Welcome to Women's History Month. Hence the fact that all month long, this will be my backdrop. See, white feminists love to point out the eugenics that started Planned Parenthood and act as if the only thing that Planned Parenthood provides is abortions. No. See, they don't want to talk about us being bred. They don't want to talk about other Black, brown, indigenous people of color, well, women of color being sterilized due to eugenics. See, they're all about forced birth when it's a white baby, because right now they're in a crisis because of their indoctrination into replacement theory. They were the ones, and their ancestors were the ones that set up the fact that you can take away from whiteness, but not take away from anything else. And they are terrified to become the minority within the United States because they're already the global minority. But see, they hide behind that colonization. And if you think I'm joking, let's take a look at Lauren Boebert's logic and announcement before we get into the crux of the second half of this.
We are raising our 4 boys to be men.
Okay.
Before liberals teach them to be women.
Okay.
But I leaned over and I asked my husband if it was appropriate to announce this here today. So I'm going to tell you all for the first time in a public setting that not only am I a mom of 4 boys, but come April, I will be a Gigi to a brand new grandson.
Wow. Even this crowd is sort of like, okay, yeah, kind of like a muted reaction, I have to say.
And Jason and I are so excited to welcome this new life into our family. Now, any of you who have young children who are giving life, there are some questions that pop up.
There are a hell of a lot of questions popping up based on what she's saying, that's for sure.
Fear that arises. Now, my son, when I approached him and told him, Tyler, I'm going to be a 36-year-old grandmother, he said, well, didn't you make Granny a 36-year-old granny? I said, yes, I did.
Right.
He said, well, then it's hereditary. Nice.
That's pretty interesting, actually. There's actually a lot there. And here's an additional clip, again, where Lauren Boebert, she talks about this like it's a good thing, okay? And she wants to make it a cultural thing. She wants to talk about how great is it that the culture of life in red states leads to a high teen birth rate.
And you know, there's something special about rural conservative communities.
Yes, there is.
They value life. If you look at teen pregnancy rates throughout the nation, well, they're the same in rural and urban areas. However, abortion rates are higher in urban areas, and teen mom rates are higher in rural conservative areas, because we understand the preciousness of the life that is about to be born. And
Wow. So a few different things. Now, I don't want to make this into a cultural critique. There is a cultural critique here to be made, without a doubt, okay? But by their own claims, it's not really clear to me that these really are the pro-life values as exhibited by teens who get pregnant in red states not seeking abortions. I don't think that that's the great thing to celebrate that Lauren Boebert is making it out to be, because the most important thing to look at here is how do the kids of teen parents do in life? And the children of young mothers do notably less well in life. This is not about saying Lauren Boebert's grandkid deserves to do poorly. The grandkid, I would consider a victim in this situation. It's that the kid is not being well set up to succeed. When you look at outcomes of all sorts and types, poverty, how likely to graduate high school, all of these different things, you see the ideal outcomes when the parents, or usually what they're looking at is the mother, is at least 25 years old. And then from 20 to 25-year-old moms, you see less good outcomes. And then when the mom is under 20, you see absolutely the worst outcomes. And the difference is significant. Now, this isn't about saying a 19-year-old can't be a good mom. Of course, that's not the case. This isn't about saying if you're 18 and you have a kid, you love the kid any less or whatever. It is not about that. But the younger the mother is, the higher the rate of poverty, the less likely the child is to graduate high school. You get the picture. But then we get not only to the weirdness of celebrating this when we know that statistically it's actually not a good thing. The hypocrisy here is that the way to prevent this, if you think it's not a good thing. Now, Lauren Boebert seems to be celebrating it. Okay, there is a cultural aspect to this. If you think this isn't a good thing, the way to prevent it is, of course, safe legal access to abortion. We know that. But teaching comprehensive sex education. That reduces teen pregnancy. It's been studied widely. Comprehensive sex ed reduces teen pregnancy. Lauren Boebert is against that. Lauren Boebert recently voted against funding that. And so there is that aspect to it as well, which is she is partially to blame. Certainly her movement is to blame for the creation of the circumstances that got us here in the first place. And by the way, Lauren Boebert also says that children should be forced to wait until they're age 21 to make decisions about just even what their gender expression is going to be. But having a baby at 17 is a great thing and is fine. That's also another one of these stunning hypocrisies. So listen, when we talk about different American cultures, this is one aspect that is very, very different. And to what degree some of what she's doing is a rationalization because the cake is baked, for lack of a better term, I don't know. But it is really, really wacky stuff.
When you put it that way.
Let's not forget that Lauren Boebert's mother has been accusing her cousin of being her father. And even with DNA testing and him adamantly saying, nope, this is not a Sweet Home Alabama, Kentucky bourbon moment, they're still pushing it. And when I first broke this story to you all, I told you that a month after this child is supposed to be born, we know a child is going to be born when a child wants to be born, okay? Could be early, could be late, could be right on time. We don't know. But a month after the predicted birth date, her son will be 18. The mother of this child will still be 15. And also keep in mind, Lauren Boebert said that Target was so woke and shouldn't be supported because of their diversity, equity, and inclusion. But that's where they're registered. Now, from one major hypocrite that likes to spin a narrative to another. Let's take a look at Miss Nessa, aka The Overload Comedy.
Reminder that Shimron is very opposed to Jeffrey Marsh talking to adults about going no contact with their parents and family, right? That was a big thing? Okay.
I'm waiting. I've been asking, I've been offering to pay people $1,000 to anyone who can produce a video of Jeffrey literally saying, hey kids, private message me, or hey kids, go to my Patreon, or hey kids, go no contact with your parents. Not a video of Jeffrey saying, hey kids, and then another video of them talking about having a Patreon. One original Jeffrey Marsh video with none of your own creative editing. Nessa, you like to show all the videos, all the little 2-second clips, but you've never showed just one video, have you? I can't believe any of you are falling for her email stunt.
A warning from a school to keep away from Jeffrey Marsh.
Like everyone else does about their kids.
You really believe that a school in the UK singled out one American TikToker? There's a literal ocean between kids in the UK and Jeffrey Marsh, but yeah, they're so worried about keeping their kids away from them that they sent out a special email. Email from a school that doesn't include a school that's signed by an individual that doesn't even include their last name. What's next, Nessa? You gonna bring on some anonymous witness from Denmark? I've never seen a more obvious witch hunt. And at this point, if you all can't see you're being lied to, it's because you want to believe that Jeffrey's a monster. When none of you are able to produce this video, are you going to apologize? You're gonna make videos saying you were wrong? I've all just jumped on this bandwagon and put this person in legitimate danger.
So, once again, I leave comes with the late breaking news. It showed us this, but I want to point something out too. Look at what this says. We are very sorry that it has come to this. The server is going to be in shutdown mode for a bit of time. There isn't an exact time on when it will be back open, but you guys have made us come to this. You guys have made us come to this. They are blaming the children in the server, not taking accountability, saying, you know, we didn't make this a safe space for you. You are to blame. Although it's sad to see the server like this, we need to do what needs to be done to keep our server safe, not y'all safe. Again, not to protect you, children, to keep the server safe. Yep.
Wait, am I missing something? All of a sudden we care about evidence? The 180 is truly remarkable. This woman was lying from the very beginning and repeatedly demonized them for even just talking to kids. This whole time she has this Discord with kids as young as 12 in there, talking about things like sexuality, sex, relationships. She didn't seem to think she needed parents' permission for their kids to be in there. It's all so innocent that she shut it down and then gaslights the kids in her announcement. It's your fault that it had to come to this. To innocent kids that are just being kids. That's like textbook language of an emotional abuser. Jeffrey was crucified for simply talking to kids about self-love. Not sex, not going no contact, not Patreon. They never did that. You just believed they did, without evidence. That is what we refer to as the entire point.
These are all of the people that have been asking me, why the hell do I have a Discord with kids?
She has a Discord.
Has a Discord for their fans.
Your Discord, Nessa.
It's on your Discord.
So I don't just do funny videos on TikTok. I do gaming videos as well. I play, random games. I play nice games like The Sims, Roblox, Among Us. And yes, I have a Discord for those gaming people, known for gaming communities coming together. So I'm sure you've heard of people called gamers where they play games like Markiplier, Vanos Gaming, Jacksepticeye, SS Sniper Wolf SS. They all play games and they're all above 20. Some of them even above 30. I'm 33 by the way. And they all have ways to communicate in the gaming community, which is called Discord. Now you're saying, why are there kids on my Discord? Okay. When people come on my Discord, they don't have to go no contact with their parents. They don't have to go no contact with their parents. I just want to throw that out there. And also, my Discord, if people are talking about certain things, that message gets flagged and it gets blocked. And then that person is then kicked out of the server because I don't like that type of conversations, okay? Because I don't like nasty conversations. Some of the conversations that Jeffrey has with 12-year-olds? Remember that clip?
I want to tell you a story that I never have put on social media, that I never have told to anyone. It's about Jeff and I having sex, and are you allowed to talk about that on Patreon? But it's actually not about that. It's about having childhood trauma.
Anyway, sorry, I just went off track. Back to my Discord. Also, to join, you don't have to go no contact with your parents. You can have the amazing relationship with all of your family members and still be in my Discord. Not like Jeffrey's Patreon.
If you are attempting to figure out if you want to go no contact, let me give you a tip. Go no contact first before you figure it out.
You guys literally have nothing else to do but to come on my Discord, and you guys took screenshots. Keep them. In fact, make videos of them so that others come on my Discord and my Discord community grows, okay? Also, a lot of you are being called out Islamophobic because you're not saying very nice things about me. But the thing is, you never mention anything about my hijab, my religion, my way of life, but you're being labeled Islamophobic.
The amount of comments coming in right now trying to claim that this is Islamophobia for calling out Overloaded Comedy for her bad behavior is astounding. It's weak. It is a desperate attempt at deflection when not once has her religion, her skin color, her ethnicity, or anything about her as a person been mentioned other than her bad behavior.
Isn't that ironic that when I made all of those Jeffrey Marsh videos, 3-4 videos, however many I made, not once have I mentioned anything about them being transgender. I only talked about their behavior. And I became transphobic? What? Isn't it funny how I spoke about Jeffrey's behavior, just their behavior, and I became transphobic. I was labeled transphobic. And you guys are, I'm seeing some of your videos. I haven't seen all of your videos. I'm seeing some of your videos. None of you mentioned my hijab, my religion. The guys that I tagged in this video. Others have. I'm not going to tag them. Or then what if people go to their page and hate them? I don't want that to happen. You guys can't find anything about me. So you guys went to my Discord and found out that I play games, Among Us, Roblox, games like that with 12-plus-year-olds up to, 30, 40, 50-year-olds, I play games. It's a public place. Everyone can see my games. But what Jeffrey is doing behind closed doors, we don't know what they are doing. It's behind closed doors. Nobody knows what they are doing. I don't know what they're doing. They could be grooming. They could not be grooming. I don't know. But there's signs. What they have been saying about, I'm not going to tell you. I'll show you.
Hi, kids. It's possible to be like me and be happy. Hey kids, feelings can feel really big. It's that time of year again when you start thinking about going no contact. I want to encourage you and say something you may not have heard before. You're going to love it. So you're going no contact. You're considering going no contact. You're 25% of the way toward an open door on the subject of no contact. Hi, love. Here are 3 ways to disrespect your elders. Your parents made mistakes. Don't worry about hurting a parent's feelings. People are fond of saying to me, you can't blame the parents. You make these videos and you blame the parents. People can't blame their parents all the time. And my answer is, of course they can. I coach a lot of people one-on-one who want to go no contact with their parents and cannot bring themselves to admit it. You can ask me anything. I'm making videos in the cameo style. Do you feel lonely? It's okay. Ironically, you're not alone in feeling lonely. If you need a family, you can come hang out with me. They may not see the real you, but that does not mean that you're not real. Hi, beautiful. If you do not have a family that loves you, I'm going to be your family. I am so glad you're here. It is my great honor that you're with me today.
And you guys, Jeffrey Marsh's defenders, keep on saying, show proof, show proof. What are you waiting for? What proof are you waiting for? I have showed you that they are talking to 12-plus-year-olds. But I haven't showed you any victims. Why? Are you waiting for a victim to come out? So there are only two ways of getting proof regarding this issue. The first one is if Jeffrey Marsh themselves say that they are doing it, which most
Stop telling kids to go on your Patreon and chat to you privately without their parents knowing.
So in case you missed it, The Real Overload Comedy is accusing Jeffrey Marsh of being a groomer. But The Real Overload Comedy is sort of just saying stuff and editing her videos and is relying on you not fact-checking her.
So I did a little bit of digging.
Hi, kids. Hey, kids. I want to talk to the kids. Hi, kids. Hey, kids.
So yeah, there's a lot of videos of them addressing kids.
So she's using these videos as evidence that Jeffrey Marsh mainly talks to children. If you use critical thinking for like 2 seconds, you'll see that this doesn't make sense. They're specifically marked for children because Jeffrey's hundreds of other videos are not for children. So then I went and watched the actual videos. They're all in the For Families playlist on Jeffrey's page. That's when I realized The Real Comedy Overload is just straight up putting out disinformation. Her whole point is, why do you want to talk to kids without their parents knowing? Every single one of these videos mentions the parents being there and watching the videos with the kids.
I want to talk to the kids. Parents watch the video and then hand the phone over to the young kid. Hi, kids. So parents watch the video and then go back and watch with your kids. Hey, kids. So parents watch the video and then come back and watch with your kids.
She just conveniently leaves all of that out. She then plays a different Jeffrey Marsh video.
Your parents screwed up. It's okay to say so. That's why I made a Patreon.
So you want to talk to kids whose parents have screwed up? Why? Why you want to talk to these particular kids? Why?
Gold medal for mental gymnastics. Newsflash, you can make different content for different people. And we've seen that when Jeffrey wants a video to go to kids, they will mark the videos as for kids. This video about connecting on Patreon was not marked for kids. And many other creators have pointed out Jeffrey Marsh's Patreon is 18 and older and requires a credit card to access. So I've not seen any real evidence from The Real Comedy Overload about the accusations she's throwing towards Jeffrey Marsh. I've only seen deceptively edited videos and like incredible leaps in logic, which is all disinformation.
Some people be like, hey kids, your family does not love you. Come to me. I will love you on my Patreon. Who are you?
It's really transparent, your content, to see how disingenuous it is. And I want to know why you think that you might be any different than somebody like Michael Knowles, who's calling for the eradication of transgenderism. Because that's what you're doing. You are targeting a marginalized person, and you're lying about them. And you know that you're lying about them because you've been told otherwise thousands of times. You know for a fact that Jeffree has never stated in any of their videos that kids should go to their Patreon because they have explicitly stated that their Patreon is 18 plus. You have to select that box before you even get access to it. You also have to use a credit card in order to buy the subscription to see Jeffree's content. Now, I have seen people in the comments of your videos saying, well, you know, kids can just get access to their parents' credit card by stealing it. They can do that on any 18 plus website on the internet. Are any of those people advocating for getting rid of all 18 plus website on the internet? I don't think they are. This is about your dying channel and the fact that you have found an audience in the alt-right and the white supremacists of the United States, because they're dumb enough to send you their money. They're dumb enough to buy your products. They're dumb enough to believe you without any evidence whatsoever. And then when you make a video saying, I have all the proof I need, you literally show the process of you have to be 18 to view this content. So how is that proving your point? There has been enough videos made on this to know definitively that Jeffree is not doing any of the things that you have stated that they're doing. And yet you continue to make these defamatory and dangerous videos that not just puts Jeffree at risk, but all trans people, because that is your new audience. Transphobic, white supremacist Christian nationalists. And yeah, your videos will probably get them to send you money, but they're also gonna get people killed. You don't seem to care about that. Why? Now, the last point of this video is that you are the only one who has taken 18 plus material that was behind a paywall, that screenshotted that or screen recorded that content and put it on an app that children can access. You are the only person who has done that. You have put kids at risk by seeing that content in a public way when they shouldn't have seen that. So as you continue to double and triple and quadruple down, I just want you to know that the audience that agrees with you also agrees that you shouldn't exist as a Muslim woman, okay? That's the audience that you've captured. And at the same time, the rest of us knows that you fucked up and you're probably going to get sued. And that's why you keep doubling down, because you have nothing else to do. It's a damn shame.
From a school to keep away from Jeffree Marsh.
At this point, it's time for you to admit that you are looking to confirm your own biases instead of thinking critically for even a second, because this is the fakest looking email I have ever seen. First off, right off the bat, they have misspelled the word TikToker. And actually, informal communication like this is, you would probably not use the term TikToker at all. You would say something like creator on the social media platform TikTok, because you have to be very specific. I'm also pretty sure that anyone who works in communications would tell you that this is bad communication, because they're not telling you why you should be aware of this person, what they're doing on this social media platform, and why it's a concern to you or your children. They don't even include like links to the profile or any of the content they are concerned about in question, and they misgender Jeffree, which tells me they have done zero research. Moving on, you do not sign off formal communication without your last name. The signature for this person also doesn't include a phone number or any kind of contact details for themselves, or the school they claim to be working for, or even the name or logo of the school they claim to be working for. Yet somehow, despite the lack of contact details, they're telling people to get in touch with them. Anyway, good luck trying to fill that queen-shaped hole in your heart with money from those hula hoops you're trying to flog.
Another quick update on Jeffree Marsh.
So I'm getting a little bored talking about Jeffree Marsh and trying to defend Jeffree Marsh. Your big complaint while reading from their 18 plus Patreon is that Jeffree Marsh is grooming kids by having them in an 18 plus chat which has no children in without their parents' consent. So let's talk about you for a second. These are screen grabs from your Discord server, with the youngest user being 12 years old. How many were there? 100 or something? 111 13-year-olds in your Discord? That's interesting. Your Discord is also filled with adults. So you have a bunch of 13-year-olds in your Discord without adult supervision while simultaneously having unknown adults interact with them. Not to mention, a lot of the 13-year-olds are talking about being single. You also have two 14-year-old moderators. Do their parents know? So let's get this straight. Jeffrey Marsh is a danger for having an 18-plus Patreon because kids can get around the paywall. Aha. But you have an open Discord for 13-year-olds and adults to intermingle? I've got the evidence. I'm more than willing to share it. The only reason why I am not is because the names and information and private discussions about their single life in your Discord to adults is with minors, the youngest being 12.
Another quick update on Jeffrey Marsh. There are a lot of points I want to make, so please try and keep up. So, for the people who are saying that kids cannot buy things off of Patreon because they don't have a card and all this stuff, okay. Kids play games like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft. Do you know what you can do on those games? You can buy things like weapons, helmets, armor, boots. The kids are obviously using real money. So where are they getting the money from? Also, you know you can save bank details on your phone, so if someone wants to purchase something, the bank details automatically pop up. You know that, right? Now the second point. This is a person who replied to Jeffrey Marsh. I'm a sex offender specialist and I've worked with predators over 20 years. This is what child grooming looks like. Just thought I'd let you guys know. This isn't me saying it. I mean, what do I know? I'm only a mother of two and a children's nurse. I mean, I've only done so many night shifts and read up so many stories about how children... I don't want to go into the details of what kids have gone through. Now, the third point I want to make. This is the information you get after you sign up to their Patreon. So here's something fun to try. Have a nice and safe childhood now, today. What is that supposed to mean for an adult? I mean, you guys are saying that their content is for adults, right? So how can an adult have a nice and safe childhood now, today? Please, can you explain that to me? And the fourth and most important point I want to make. So we all know Jeffrey Marsh has a website and they have a frequently asked questions on their website. Let's go and check that out, shall we? Do you work with young people? I have rarely done this kind of coaching with people 12 and over only, but I always recommend that the parents, guardians, and I meet for coaching as a first step. You can ask about this in an email to me. So what happens to those sessions when the parents or guardians are not there and they are 12-plus-year-olds? This isn't me saying it. This is Jeffrey Marsh's website saying it. And to all of those people who are shouting at the top of their...
And there we go. This proves exactly what kind of an individual she is. She will not say it in the videos, but she'll do it in the comments. So according to her, I find all of you suspicious now. So now she's calling all of us groomers. Look there, look there. Comparing my Discord and their Patreon. Are you guys recruiting for Jeffrey? Okay, so let's apply this logic. Let's apply this logic, because you're right. You cannot compare the Patreon and the Discord, because Jeffrey's Patreon has a paywall and an 18-plus entry. Yours doesn't. Yours has two minors moderating content. You yourself admitted some of the content that gets flagged is not for children, but you're making two 14-year-olds view it. Number one. So let's apply your logic, shall we? You have an open Discord where minors are required to put in personally identifiable information. I work in cybersecurity. That's called data collection. Date of birth, where they're from, pronouns, names. You make them put it all in there. Yeah, that's highly suspicious. But then you also have an open Discord where actual groomers and pedophiles can engage with kids in that comment section and the discussions, who can then talk to these kids, flirt with these kids, and take them into private conversations, all without their parents knowing. That's happening in your Discord. My dear, that makes you, dare I say it, a trafficker.
To all those people, if Jeffrey Marsh was a straight man, would you be defending them?
Interesting question, Overload Comedy. Seeing as how you are a straight woman who has 13-year-olds and 14-year-old admins on your Discord, yeah, trying to villainize Jeffrey for talking to 12-plus-year-olds while you literally have a Discord where you do the same. Just for proof, how did you meet Overload Comedy? And here, your admin, who is 14. Huh. Why would you talk to a 14-year-old on a Discord away from their parents? And something even more suspicious about your Discord is why you have 13-year-olds talking about being single on a Discord with people like yourself, 40 and up, 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and other teens. Why do you have a Discord where teenagers are going and talking about being single to 40 and 30-year-olds? Huh. See, you've been on this witch hunt, trying to paint Jeffrey out as some predator and some boogeyman, making video after video, accusing them of doing grooming, talking to 12-year-olds while you literally have a 14-year-old moderating conversations between 50, 40, 30-year-olds. And I would say, you having two 13-year-olds feeling comfortable to talk about them being single on a Discord with 40 and 50-year-olds is more evidence of grooming on your side than you have proven with Jeffrey Marsh at all. I didn't have to edit this. This is what's on your Discord. I hope you're willing to take the lashings that you've been giving to Jeffrey, because there's more evidence about grooming on your end than there is on Jeffrey's end. And I'm not trying to assume that you are a groomer, but the evidence of 13-year-olds feeling comfortable about talking about them being single on your Discord and how you didn't moderate that, it lets us know what it needs to let us know. And it lets us know that this has nothing to do with Jeffrey talking to 12-year-olds. It has everything to do with you trying to paint a trans person to be a predator. Do better.
Kept my mouth shut throughout the Jeffrey Marsh debate. I've listened to both sides kept my mouth shut throughout the Jeffrey Marsh debate. I've listened to both sides hash it out. Finding out that Nessa has a Discord for gamers, no age restriction, and for which a 14-year-old has been made one of the moderators. Sorry if you're sick of hearing about it, just scroll on. But I'm at my breaking point now.
Why the hell do I have a Discord with kids?
The way you try to sell this as if it is something that is completely normal for an adult to do. Something a lot of my followers don't know about me is that I am a gamer. Maybe not to the extent of setting up a Discord. I mostly just play with my two kids, but I can tell you this, if my kids were in a Discord set up by an adult that had other adults within it, I would have a very big problem with that, especially considering the fact that Discords like yours are literal hunting grounds for sexual predators. It'd be one thing if you had a disclaimer like this on your Discord, but you don't, and you also have a 14-year-old listed as admin. Giving a child big responsibilities and a special title like that is textbook grooming.
When people come on my Discord, they don't have to go no contact with their parents.
It's incredibly difficult for a child to go no contact. can't support themselves. They certainly can't pay to be a member of a Patreon if they've gone no contact. The only way is to legally file for emancipation. And if they've done that, their parents no longer have any say-so over what they do, which is why it rarely happens. Jeffrey is talking to adults who have had traumatic childhoods.
People are talking about certain things. That message gets flagged.
Flagged by who? The 14-year-old moderator?
Because I don't like nasty conversations. You know some of the conversations that Jeffrey has with 12-year-olds?
Of Jeff and I having sex, and are you allowed to talk about that on Patreon? But it's actually not about that. It's about having childhood trauma.
See, this is one of those areas where you really like to blur the line. Having childhood trauma is not the same thing as a child currently experiencing trauma.
Not once have I mentioned anything about them being transgender. I only talked about their behavior. And I became transphobic?
Now, so you're not being labeled transphobic because you didn't use the right pronoun. Being labeled transphobic because you are not holding cis straight people to the same standard that you are holding Jeffrey to. When you go after a non-binary person for something that you yourself are doing, it tells us that you think people like Jeffrey should be kept under a microscope simply because of who they are. People like you're just innocent. That does indeed make you transphobic.
You guys can't find anything about me, so you guys went to my Discord.
Your Discord was the thing that needed to be found.
And found out that I play games, Among Us, Roblox, games like that with 12-plus-year-olds. It's a public place.
Having a public platform makes it more likely that predators will be within that community. It makes it way easier for children to pose as adults or for adults to pose as children.
What he is doing behind closed doors, we don't know what they are doing.
If someone wanted to catch Jeffrey trying to groom children, they could easily go and join their Patreon and prove that that behavior is occurring. Right, you don't know. You have no evidence. You are speculating. And the reason you are speculating against only Jeffrey is because they are non-binary. We don't have to speculate with your Discord. We now have proof that there are tons of children in your Discord talking about inappropriate topics for which you have a 14-year-old moderating. Went on to show a bunch of videos of Jeffrey talking to kids. But every single video where they appear to be talking to kids, they're also talking to parents. In fact, when they want kids to see their video, they even say, parents, watch this video first. But when they start talking about going no contact, is it in a Hey Kids video?
That time of year again, when you start thinking about going no contact. Oh, you're going no contact. Your parents made mistake.
It's not, is it? Adults have parents too, Nessa. Very toxic parents who make their lives a living hell. Video goes on for 9 minutes and 45 seconds. You need that much time to defend your actions. You should really just pack it up.
Message alert, message alert. Guess what this is? Guess. No, come on, guess. Guess what it is, guess. Be bloody gorgeous hula hoop. It's my own bloody hula hoop and I want you guys to get it. It's the quiet hula hoop with a counter on it. And I will be launching the product mid-March. So I just got an email saying pretty much
a threat saying they know where I live. And what scares me the most is they have got my daughter's details on the email, like what time I leave to drop them to school, pick them up. And it's not a coincidence because both of my daughters, they go to 2 different schools, so they know. They've given the school details and everything. So yeah, my daughters are involved now in this. Some of you might know that my car was damaged in this whole thing. I was getting not very nice videos and now emails with a lot of details on that email. So I'm done. I don't want to do anything. I'm not going to talk about Jeffrey Marsh. I've deleted everything, removed it. If you guys want to go ahead, but please don't come to my house. You just get on with your life, I'll get on with mine. You guys want me to say I'm sorry? Fine, I'm sorry. Please don't come at me, don't come to my house, don't do anything with me, because I'm just one person, and specifically 4 or 5 of you have 4 or 5 of you have kind of done stuff. Like some of you have found old pictures of me and uploaded it on TikTok without my hijab. So you guys have done that. I know you guys are gonna take
Be so fucking for real. Be so fucking for real. You put out everything else, but not the names of the people who posted you without your hijab. It's the same story every time she gets called out. Every single time when she got called out for her egregious beans and toast joke regarding United States children being gunned down in their schools, she claimed she needed to move and there needed to be a GoFundMe. If you think I'm joking, I even Googled it. It comes up and they don't even have anything nice to say about her regarding that GoFundMe. But your family is in danger. I've received threats. I've been an activist since 14 years old. I've been on the front line since 14 years old. I'm about to be 46 in a month. I've had people show up to my house. I've had people put up pictorials to dox me every step of the way up to my fucking front door. Why would you get on the internet and give additional information about, girl, miss me with the bullshit. Miss me with the bullshit. I said this on TikTok. I'm going to say it right here on this podcast. Miss me with the bullshit. Miss me with the bullshit. You don't get to cry white woman tears and still demonize a community, because that's what you're doing. You're still demonizing a community while victimizing yourself for profit. The almighty dollar. Be so fucking for real right now. Be so fucking for real right now. Every time you get called out, so they found your car, but not your husband's car. You agree with certain things that Jeffrey was saying, but you're right and he's wrong. They found where your daughters go to school, but not where you work, not where your husband works. They just went straight for the children. Straight for the children. Your kids ain't had nothing to do with none of this. Your kids did not set this up. Miss Mamas, be so fucking As always, thank you for joining me here with Conversations with Taz, and realize this week, like I said, it's fuck around and find out week. Tomorrow, we're going to talk to some adoptees from Adoptee Talk that have been targeted by somebody who's on a clout chase. And if you have been targeted by somebody online, let me know. Come on over here and tell your story, because we letting everybody allow themselves to fuck around and find out. And as always, pay attention to the last story of the day. Each one teach one, each one reach one. Let's do it.
If I'm going to talk about Alfalfa, I got to talk about the entire original Little Rascals gang, because they were cursed. The original Little Rascals was a TV show airing from 1922 to 1944. And almost every kid on that show died in the most tragic way. Since there are a lot, I'm just going to keep this short, but if you want to find out more about this, there are a ton of YouTube videos. Carl Switzer, aka Alfalfa, did not get many gigs after his time on the show. Everyone just saw him as cute little Alfalfa, so no one wanted to hire him. Between acting gigs, he would get side jobs such as bartender or dog trainer. In 1959, at the age of 31, Carl was shot to death over an argument of $50. Carl also had a brother named Harold, and he appeared on the show sometimes as well. In 1967, Harold offed his girlfriend and then himself at the age of 47. William Thomas, aka Buckwheat, became a technician after his time on the show at the Technicolor Corporation. But in October of 1980, after his neighbors hadn't heard from him in a few days, they went to go check on him to find him dead at the age of 49. His cause of death was a heart attack. Robert Hitchens, aka Weezer, became an Army cadet after his time on the show. But in 1945, during training, Robert crashed his plane trying to land it, unfortunately killing him at the age of 19, just a few days before his 20th birthday. Matthew Beard, aka Stymie, became a high school dropout after his time on the show. And for 20 years, he fought a heroin addiction and was in and out of prison. He did manage to clean himself up in 1970, but unfortunately in 1981, Matthew fell down the stairs and obtained a few head injuries. He died a few days later in the hospital from pneumonia. Darla Hood Granson died from hepatitis that she contracted during a minor surgery at a hospital. She died in 1979 at the age of 47. Norman Chaney, aka Chubby, was overweight due to a glandular problem. In 1935, by the age of 17, he weighed over 300 pounds, so he had a surgery to treat his condition. He managed to lose 130 pounds, but he never regained his health. So by 1936, Norman passed away at the age of 18. Scotty Beckett had your classic troubled ex-child star life. He turned to alcohol, drugs, he got into a lot of fights, and had numerous run-ins with the law. In 1968, at the age of 38, Scotty checked into a nursing hospital after getting beaten up during a fight. 2 days later in the hospital, he was found dead with a suicide note and a bottle of pills next to him. But coroners were never able to find out if he passed away because of the beating or the pills. William Lawlin, aka Froggy, became a newspaper delivery boy after his time on the show. But in 1948, at the age of 16, while delivering newspapers on his motor scooter, William was rear-ended by a truck and the hit unfortunately killed him. Richard Daniels, aka Mickey, became estranged from his wife and kids and basically separated himself from his entire family. In 1970, at the age of 55, Richard was found dead in a San Diego hotel room. His cause of death was cirrhosis of the liver. Because he had no form of identification on him, he was buried in an unmarked grave, and it wasn't until years later that his family found out that he passed. Lastly, we have Richard Blake, aka Bobby, and he kind of beat the Little Rascals curse. In 1990, Bobby met a woman named Bonnie Lee Blakely and fell in love with her. In the year 2000, Bonnie gave birth to Bobby's first child, and 5 months later, they were married. Later on, Bobby found out that Bonnie was actually a celebrity-obsessed con artist, and she only got with him so she can have his baby. So mysteriously, a few months later, on May 4th, 2001, Bonnie was shot in the head and killed while sitting in her car outside of a restaurant that she had just had dinner with Bobby in. In April 2002, Bobby was arrested and charged with the murder of Bonnie. But in March 2005, Bobby was found not guilty, and the murderer of Bonnie was never found. To this day, people still doubt his innocence, which is kind of understandable. And through doing research to make this video, I actually found out Bobby passed away yesterday, March 9th, 2023, from heart disease. From what his niece said, he died peacefully in his Los Angeles home, surrounded by family. So that is the fate of all the original Little Rascals. There are more from other people that have been on the show, but this video is already 4.5 minutes, so if you would like a part 2, comment and let me know.